Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel, Get Sharp. Today, we're going to compare two very important accessories when it comes to sharpening on a Tormek or grinding wheel system. We're going to figure out which is best, the Tormek KJ-45 or the Chinese knockoff by WEN. Let's take a look and see which is best. So at first glance, they look pretty similar. You know, with one major exception that this one's, the Chinese knockoff is a bit taller. It does have an adjustable support mechanism at the top that you can raise or lower. And this would allow a sharpener to make minute angle adjustments on the fly. I find it just as easy to raise or lower the support bar, so I never actually use this feature. Another important thing to note is how tight this can lock this in place. If you really crank down on it, I'm sure it'll hold it steady, but in my experience, that's not always the case. So that's, you know, a point lost for the WEN system there. However, we don't even have the option available on the Tormek KJ-45. The next obvious features are bolts here. The Tormek takes the cake here with a low profile bolt system. The next obvious thing to note is the bolt sizes. On the Tormek here, we can notice at the front we have a low profile screw head here, which is actually very handy. These can, on really low angle or short tools, can hit the stone themselves or prevent super low angles. So Tormek takes the win on the low profile screw head. However, on our back screws here, I'm gonna have to give this one the win to the Chinese knockoff WEN, and let me tell you why. The Tormek one's great because it has it's very rigid and it allows you to get a super tight grip, but it's painful. Whereas this style, you can still get that super tight grip, but it's a lot more forgiving on your fingers. I think the next step here is for us to go ahead and put these things in action and see how they work in a real life scenario. All right, it's time to put these to the real world test. Just grabbed an 8-inch chef's knife, and the Chinese knockoff was the closer of the two, so we're starting with that. Very easy to clamp on and get a nice snug fit, no issues there. Let's go ahead and check our angle real quick here. And we're slightly under 17, that's 17 degrees. I think that should be just fine. I strategically chose the Japanese stone so I don't do a lot of work on this blade. All right, let's go ahead and see how she feels on the support bar here and see if we run into any issues. She's gliding very smooth, and I don't know what it is about this rig, but it feels more lightweight. I actually enjoy the slickness of the handle support as it rubs against the support bar. Let's flip it over and see if we run into any issues on this side. One complaint I would have would be that bolt up top that adjusts the support bar up top. It's kind of in the way, but it doesn't impede on my ability to do my job here. And again, it feels very lightweight and very slick. And I feel as though I have a lot of control, so I can't complain. All right, let's go ahead and check out the Tormek KJ-45. This lower bolt, you gotta strain to tighten it due to that low profile. Let's go ahead and check our angle real quick. All right, 17 degrees, we're in business. So first things first, the Tormek KJ-45 does feel a little bit more heavy, but sturdy. The thumb grip, I'm not as much of a fan of. I actually prefer the way the other one feels. And this one, for some reason, it just doesn't glide as smooth. Sometimes it gets stuck. And that smooth glide is so critical, especially when you're on like the SG-250 or a low grit stone and you're getting down here on the heel. You need to be able to slide left and right with ease so you don't overextend onto these guards here and destroy them. Not destroy them, but you know, grind them up and make them look like crap. So in terms of, you know, how they function in real life, I hate to say it because I'm not a fan of theft, essentially. I mean, it's apparent to me that WEN did not come up with the design and they pretty much copycatted Tormek, but nonetheless, that's not my problem. So yeah, you know, whether or not WEN ripped off Tormek's design and copycatted them, I don't know for sure, but let's be honest, China has a reputation, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did just, you know, rip off all of the work Tormek did and copied it and, you know, made it 600 times cheaper. But with that said, we have one more item to discuss, and that's cost. So we have the Tormek KJ-45 coming in delivered $70. The knockoff Chinese WEN jig delivered $10. That's a 700% difference. Let that sink in for a minute. Luckily, we're dealing with two items under $100. But at the end of the day, when it comes to functionality and overall feel, I kind of like the WEN. When it comes to looks and sexiness, I definitely like the Tormek. When it comes to just overall, how do I put it? How I feel morally, ethically, brand recognition, safety, perceived quality, Tormek. So here's my recommendation to you. If you've got the extra money to spend, just get both of them. Swap between them. If you don't have the extra money to spend and you're really trying to save money, go with the WEN. It works well. And in fact, I kind of like the way it works better than the Tormek version. You know, until I hear otherwise that there's something else wrong with it that I'm not aware of. So there it is. Cat's out of the bag. You know, you got two different makers. They're both extremely functional, and it's just going to come down to your personal preference at the end of the day. Tomorrow when I get to work, I'm going to grab the KJ-45 because that's what I grew up on. So I really appreciate you and your time watching my videos. It helps me a ton if you stab that like button. And if you are enjoying my content, look at my other videos. I've got some good ones. And if you're really enjoying your time, subscribe. I'd love to have you around. And I would love to feature your knife on this show for all of YouTube to see. To do this, visit www.getsharpusa.com. Contact me and I'll make it happen. All right, thank you.